Hey guys, and welcome back to Armchair Conversations with Rob. Was talking a little bit about goals and having things over the last few. If you haven't checked out those, go check them out and see what you think. But something else hit me as I was talking about some other things. In particular, talking to the guys in the crowd about keeping what you catch and having dominion over it, meaning that you're an administrator over your things. I started thinking about things that you want and thinking about things that you want. When you think about things that you want, um, I'm gonna ask you to do some things to help you narrow it down a little better because there's a lot of times when we think we want something and then when we get it, it's not as cool as what we thought, or it's not something that ultimately we want. We just like the idea of it. That's definitely a important point because sometimes we like the idea of something and we don't always necessarily deeply think about what goes into what it is we're asking for. So let's play with that a little bit for a couple minutes. The biggest thing whenever you think about something you want that I would suggest you ask yourself is why do you want it? Because there's always levels beyond the actual thing. 9 times out of 10, the thing is representative of some other thing in your life, typically something that's psychological or feeling in particular. Like, for example, you may want a nice car, a big home, or lots of money, not because you want the actual money or the car or the home, but because of how it will make you feel or what it says or you think it says about you or what you think that other people are going to say about you, because people's opinions do matter, even to those of us who think that they don't or maybe have minimized their role. People's opinions and what people think is always going to matter because we are basically herd creatures. I mean, we're hardwired to be pack animals. Most of the people don't want to think of us as animals, but technically, in many ways, our primal emotions are very animalistic. And so we are pack animals. So that means that we care what the pack thinks of us and where we stand in the pecking order of the hierarchy. Otherwise, a lot of the things that you want, you probably wouldn't give a damn about if they weren't because of making you feel a certain way, feel happy, feel like you're part of the pecking order or where you sit in the pecking order or you're above this one or below that one or whatever it is. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to think about why exactly that you want the thing that you want and what's underneath it. What's the feeling that's attached to it at some point, or the sense of psychological things like self-worth, um, value, um, power, hierarchy, which again can be translated back far enough into feelings. The second thing I want you to think about when it comes to getting things is the details of the thing, because as you dig into the details, you've heard this phrase, the devil is in the details. I think as you dig into the details of what it is that you want, you might start coming up with some things that you didn't think of. Like, for example, um, say you want a really, really nice fancy car, something that is so nice that it's rare or obscure, or say it's a limited edition thing that there's only so many of made. And I'll give you a case in point. Back when we were kids, a friend of mine wanted a particular car, and I want to say a Fuso or Peugeot was some kind of foreign car. Beautiful car, ran very well when it was running, but when it came time to get the parts for it, when things broke down or began to break down, it was very difficult to get because the parts had to be ordered overseas and they were insanely expensive. The car itself wasn't expensive at all, but the parts and getting and acquiring the parts to keep the vehicle running. Remember what I said about, having dominion over something, in other words, being an administrator, became overwhelming. And the car sat in the yard for the remainder of the duration of our childhood. I'm saying like high school to college. So you have to think a little bit more in depth about what's going to be required of you to keep up or maintain the thing that you want. And that is the cost, counting up the cost. And the Bible says no man builds a house without counting up the cost, basically, to paraphrase it. And so you have to do that when you think about things that you want. And as you begin to contemplate these things, you may find that that thing isn't as interesting anymore. Now, I will be clear and say that I'm not saying that you shouldn't want things because you have to think about what goes into it and why you actually want it. You should not go and acquire money because you know that at the bottom of your life you think it's going to make you happy. Um, it affords you some opportunities to pursue your happiness that maybe you wouldn't have if you didn't have it. So I'm not saying don't want stuff. Don't make sure you hear me. I'm not saying don't want stuff. I'm saying think a little more deeply about what it is you want and why. And you might be able to tailor it and tweak it, adjusting as we've talked about, to come up with something that fits you better, or a way of realizing what you're getting into and still getting the thing that you originally wanted. And so the third thing I would say is, what type of person do you need to become to get it? What do you actually have to do to get it? Do you have to change your mindset? Do you have to attack, say, some negative thinking that's kept you from it up until this point? Do you have to become a certain person in order to not only acquire it, but maintain it? And so I would ask you to think of those things when you are thinking about the things that you want. Because again, you have to kind of weigh out everything that's involved. Otherwise, like I say, you won't be a good administrator over your things. You won't be a good ruler over your stuff. Because if you decide you want a beautiful house, and in the getting of it, you don't realize that there are taxes to be paid, the location may be different, and it may change the worth and value of the house, that you have to keep the house up and take care of it, and the things that you have to do mentally to put yourself in a position to do that, or physically the actions you need to take once you get it, to keep it. So this was a little ditty about thinking about the things that you want. So again, think about why you want it, think about what's going to be involved in getting it, and think about the type of person that you are and whether or not you're going to do what is necessary to keep it. Anyway, thanks for sharing my armchair. Just want to throw that out there for more food for thought. That one was in response to a question that I had regarding goals and things. And so thought I'd play with a little bit. And those are the things that I use whenever I'm thinking about things that I want. And it's helped me to fine tune the stuff that I want so I'm happier with the things that I ultimately get. Because again, I've learned a little more about exactly what it is that I'm really wanting. And sometimes it's the actual thing, and sometimes it's not. So, anyway, just something to think about, food for thought. Again, if you like me, subscribe and show this to one other person. That's the only thing I ever ask. Um, Give me feedback, give me comments, and just keep it coming. So, anyway, thank you for sharing my armchair, and have a great day wherever and whenever you are.